That's what we do together.
Oh my God! Welcome, folks. We are just having a blast here, getting ready for this. We're having people dropping in and out a little bit with technical issues. I think Mercury's going into retrograde, right, Deborah? So
Yes.
that's what's happening. So this panel, I'm really excited about this. This came out of, actually, it's one of our panelists, Glynis, asked me a question about a couple of weeks ago that just got me going. She asked me, when were you last kind to yourself? And that just got, that has started me down a rabbit hole. And so I reached out to these amazing people. We've got a couple more that are coming in, but let me give you some introductions so that you know who is on the panel. Then we'll get into what this means about kindness to you, and why, to me, this is a radical new way of looking at things that can really change how we approach all the things about connecting with Source, about personal growth, about where we come from. So our panelists, let me share first that Glynis Devine, she is a currency-driven performance expert. She works with senior women leaders to identify their core currencies so that they can be vibrant leaders. And she is, as I said, the troublemaker who launched me on this journey with that question about when were you last kind to yourself. Pegine is a pioneering, irreverent, and she's also entrepreneurial. She's known as a maverick leader, and she's also the only Latina and one of the only 8 women inducted into the 60-member Motivational Speakers Hall of Fame.
Woo.
Now, yay! Yes,
Yay.
applaud. And Sarah is an expert in recognition. Hopefully we're going to be reconnecting with Sarah in a second, and is passionate about guiding each of us to rediscover our own greatness and recognize the greatness in others. Deborah Young is a psychic astrologer and hypnotherapist who's been in demand for decades. She believes that increasing your awareness of your karmic path helps you to become more conscious. Patricia Watson is the winner of the African Nova Scotian Music Association's 2009 Rising Star Award, and has been singing most of her life. She's also a spiritual guide and has been on that journey for a long time. And thank you so much for joining us, and I'm hoping Sarah's going to be reconnecting soon. And just to sort of set the stage, let me share with you a little bit about both what I've discovered, but also where my thoughts have been the last little while. What this is I discovered, if you just go to the definition of kindness, I discovered something interesting, that kindness has a duality. It has to be both an emotion and an action. That you cannot just be kind without doing anything. The action can be a smile, it can be a hug, it can be a touch, as simple as that. But then you cannot just feel kindness. If you do, it's compassion. But I found it very interesting that the definitions of kindness really jumped a lot to acts of kindness. There was a lot of synergy there. And so that was really something, and when you think about kindness to yourself, I started going, wow, what does that mean as we go forward there? The other thing I started realizing as I thought about this is, where do we spend most of our time? And what I've discovered with me, with friends, with coaching clients, is that predominantly we spend our time in focusing on what we don't have, in beating ourselves up often, in looking at where we're not doing well. And to me, this is going to sound radical, but I'm going to say those are almost like acts of violence against ourselves. We're beating ourselves up. And to me, they are like unkindness, where I've come. And the thing that I wondered is, where do we spend most of our time? And as I said, from my experience, a lot of people spend most time more on the attacking ourselves. And how can we get to where we are, how can we get so that we're more than 51% acting out of kindness? Like some of the things I've started doing is almost everything I do, I ask, is this an act of kindness to me? And what I've discovered is that and who is reacting is very much a younger child, right? And you're either beating ourselves up for what we've not done, or if there's an act of kindness. And the question that's been coming is, how can we come so we're predominantly doing everything that we do as an act of kindness? So we can give ourselves a break, but are we being kind in doing that, or just giving a break and still focusing on what's not accomplished, beating ourselves? So those are some of the thoughts that have been percolating for me. And what I'd also like to mention, those of you who are viewing this live, if you want to type your questions, your insights, your comments into the comments, we'll be able to see them and bring them into the conversation. So that's sort of a bit of a Reader's Digest dump of where I've come to over the last couple of weeks. And what I thought I would do, Glynis has very graciously come to us. She's on vacation with her family. She's very graciously given us time. And I know your internet is spotty where you are as well, Glynis. Maybe I'll give you first dibs jumping into that. I've just laid out, a lot. There's a lot of things to do. To start the conversation off, what is it that resonates for you, or where do your thoughts go from some of the things that I've talked about?
Thanks, Rob. And escaping my family on holidays is actually a gift. Don't tell them. My daughter's with me, and she says, I'm right here. So it's interesting. I adore you, Ravi, and I adore how you always shine light on other people, because you made it sound like I provoked that. I got off our call, and I'm sure the bigger aha is with me, because I sat there thinking, wow, pretty interesting that you and he found that about him. Do you think that could pay value to you? And so I've been, as we say in Montreal, mijoting over that ever since. And what occurred to me, my aha through that process, is the fact that I'm not kind to me when I'm working for someone else's currency. So in a nutshell, I work with people to identify their core currency. That is the non-monetary paychecks that fill them, that help them feel authentic. Interesting how I'm now taking my own medicine, because what I realized was the times I'm not being kind to myself is when I'm running after somebody else's agenda. So when I'm busy for the sake of being busy, I tend to thrive when I'm in a creative space, when I'm looking to help others, when I'm helping empower people and make an impact and go with flow, and that time has no hands on the clock. And yet I tend to push myself into this space where I'm working under a clock, under a deadline. How much can I achieve in a day? And those are the spaces that are not conducive to being kind to me. So that was my aha. Thank you for the gift that gave double back.
You're very welcome. And maybe I'll invite Patricia in as well, because we are also dealing with Patricia. Because the slow internet where she is, there's a several second delay, so we can't actually have dialogue back and forth, but we'll let her get her thoughts in as we start, and give her a couple of seconds to do that. Do we have her? This is longer than I thought. It could be a frozen image.
I think it's frozen.
Yes. All right. So let me open it up, unless she jumps in here. Pegine, Deborah, your thoughts on kindness?
So I was just thinking that when in the Patricia delay, that this was a perfect experience to 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 know that, as you're waiting for the delay, there's that, anxiety, that anxiousness, the I want it, and then I just went, well, use this as a time to pray. Use this as a time to, get what is the downloads? How do you accept where you are? What's the peace that we're receiving from the experience? And what is everybody else? That it's not always a need to be rush, rush, rush. It's a need to to be present in whatever is occurring. And I looked up, the kindness is the quality of being friendly and generous and considerate. And when we talk about to ourselves, what does that look like? And I will be honest, I'm not really good at that sometimes. Well, okay, I'm not really good at that like a lot. So I'm just, I'm trying to be like really like, oh, I'm kind and generous. No, I'll buy massages for my family before I'll buy them for myself.
Hmm.
You know, I'll 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 go for um, we had a big discussion in the house. There's a lot of emotion going around late. And so I had canceled a meeting so I could be present for somebody in my family who was experiencing something. So I canceled a meeting so I could be with that person. And then we had a discussion, looked at a little, about,
Discussion.
yeah, discussion about how, because I reacted in a certain way about something else. I was like, oh my gosh, like I just need some time for me. I can't keep on doing this. And then it was like this whole thing of, well, nobody told you to cancel your meeting. Nobody told you to stop. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm being, and I could say, yeah, but I'm being friendly, generous, and considerate. That's why I'm doing that. When in reality, I never really asked myself, what does Pegine want? What is, what does Pegine need? What do I need to feel kindness to me? What do I need to do or think about to be generous? So for me, in the mornings I'm very generous to myself in my meditations, in my I spend a lot of time meditation. I have lots of books that I journal on different things from my Reiki, from myself, from my health, from I'm now working on shadow work. So I spend time on being aware, right? But when the day goes through and when I'm moving through, I am, what? Sometimes I'm just not aware that I even know what kindness is. So I will tell you a couple of things that I do is I do send myself anonymous flowers.
I love it.
So I will call at my flower place, and just send it whenever you feel like it, and just write, Peggy, I love you so much. You are so awesome. Smell the richness. This is a gift to you, and I don't sign it. And so this beautiful bouquet comes every once in a while, usually, which is really interesting, exactly when I need it. It'll show up. So I do those things, but I know that I'm much kinder to you or to Glynis or to Deborah. I'll be much kinder to everybody else in words, in deeds, in caring than I will do it for myself. I'm a work in progress, like everybody listening. I hope everybody's listening. So I know that I'm kind to myself, or I know that I stopped the beat up, the but it's such a conscious thing that I need to be mindful of it for myself. I don't, Deborah, what goes with you?
Yeah. Before we go to Deborah, I'm just going to ask the people who are watching a question. This question you asked is, how often are you consciously and mindfully kind to yourself? And Pegine, I'm putting you on the spot here. We didn't talk about this, but would you mind sharing what happened when I sent out the request to you, to the timing? Because and this is a perfect lead into Deborah in a moment, but what you were going through when I sent that message about the self-kindness?
Yeah, so what so in my world, we are having a lot of family drama in my world. Uh, there's a lot of individual challenges from each member of my family. I have two adult children and a husband, and we've suffered. I was writing about this today because we suffered this year a death. Several deaths of really close people. We've suffered in divorces that were going on with and people that we had trusted and loved who did some really devious things. So been a lot of this upheaval. Wow, business has been fabulous and life has been fabulous. And so I'm on as a motivational speaker. I'm a leadership speaker who works with women. I pump you up. Yes, we can. And then, over here, so it's like, and the tears and the angst. So when Robbie had said to me, say, how are you doing? I said, which persona do you want? Because I'm a multi-dimensional maverick female. So it's not what minute are you asking me? And that led us to have this discussion about being kind. So, and then I said, and then today I made a commitment, and I remember what we were talking about, Robbie. So I made a commitment 2 months ago to have an accountability partner that every Friday I take off. I don't do any business. I don't do anything. So Robbie said, well, we could do it on Friday. And I'm thinking, how do I spin this so that it's not working, but it's just chilling? So let's just say we're Friday, we're just chilling and we're just talking and, they're all at the pool, just chilling. So
Just hanging.
I'm not working today.
No,
And
this isn't work.
This is not work.
No,
Let's see some pluses from or the thumbs from people that this is it's not work. Let's validate Pegine. So Deborah, again, the timing was perfect when this came. You and I have had a little chat about this since during my epiphany journey. Your thoughts on this, on kindness, and what how the planets align with that, and
Well, it's interesting because when I mentioned to my partner that I was invited to be on this panel, he like me, he knows how hard I am on myself. The two planets that talk about kindness are your moon sign and Venus. The sign that Venus is in. Those are planets that are primarily concerned with They're concerned with many, many things. The vastness of each of them is complex, and then each moon sign then is going to be aspected or connected to another planet. For example, my moon is in Cancer, so I always say that a cookie, is like having just very simple pleasures, livens up my moon Cancer. I'm practicing kindness, but I have a challenge between some of my other energies where I'm a quester. I love the big impossible challenge and dare and questing. So I go riding off of my horse, forgetting my moon Cancer completely. They're whimpering in the corner. I'm not being kind to them. I'm on my journey. I'm on my mission, right? Giddy up, go. And I love that. But then after a while, it's like my moon is like, having a breakdown. And then Venus is also about kindness as well. Venus is your heart. It's love. When people, say, oh, I want happy, it's like, happy is very fluctuating, just like the moon is. Get to know your moon and what your moon is, what makes your moon happy. That's kindness, is what makes so getting to know your moon and what your moon needs are. It's all very individual. And some of the blocks, as in my case, some of the obstacles to accessing moon happiness, but moon is kindness, and moon represents the early nurturing and the messages that we received about what nurturing, what kindness, what care was. So some of that has to be unpacked as well. Same as Venus. And the more that we are practicing our Venus and our moon needs, then we're going to radiate more kindness. Obviously, we're going to radiate more love. We're going to attract more kindness. We're going to attract more love. And if we come from those places, in terms of, say, career, Does my career allow me to be kind to myself? Does that friendship allow me to be kind to myself? Does my family allow me to be kind to myself? So it's really, honoring your moon and your Venus, and what's required of your moon is that I'm simple, a cookie. It's all it looking out at the clouds or whatever. That's my moon needs. I think your moon is in Libra, Ravi. Is that right?
I maybe you remember better than me.
Yeah, I have one of those memories. Dancing, relating to other people, making
What can I
connections.
say?
Yeah, but that's showing kindness to yourself. That's an act of kindness for you, if that makes any sense.
Totally.
Yeah. So,
So
but the kindness practice is something that we can bring into every aspect of our life, but it requires a practice. It requires kind of being mindful. Okay, what does my moon need? What does my Venus need, for example? And how can I lead my life with that? It takes a conscious effort or awareness to move forward with that.
thank you, Deborah. And I want to get Patricia in now that we've got the technology, and Glynis has popped out for a bit. I love this. And speaking of a dance, we're having a beautiful little dance here. And Patricia, I'm going to read a quote that you just put up here, but it should work out right if you start speaking now. She said, "I love the practice of wonderment, being like a 5-year-old, being grateful for everything that comes my way." And she gives out cards that says, "Who you are and what you do is greatly appreciated. Thank you." So, oops. And of course, now she's muted. I love this. Patricia, you are muted. Oh, your mic isn't connected, it says. So you need to connect your mic down in camera microphone. We are
Robbie,
having, yes,
so I'm just going to read while we're having the technical difficulties.
yep,
Somebody commented on your page, Zofia Dove. She asked
yes.
the question, what's the difference between self-kindness, self-compassion versus selfishness and self-centeredness? Is there such a distinction? And if there is one, where is the fine line boundary?
That's a
How
brilliant
how
question,
to
Sophia.
recognize it? In fact, if it exists. Oh, 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 oh! I want to
You
take
want to go at that?
so I do because I personally think the biggest challenge, and Zofia, I think the personal challenges with empaths, with people, with women, with people who are doing is that we make self-centeredness a problem, like making it, and really self-centeredness. I am the center of my world. I am the creator of my world. I am the manifester of what I want. I am that being, that energetic being that attracts the right and perfect experiences or detracts and pushes them away. I am the radio tower. I tell this all the time to my clients. I'm the radio tower that's putting out what I want, and I'm also attracting what I want. And so there is the concept of self kindness, self compassion, and self centeredness is all good and all a blessing. What sometimes we get into is it narcissistic? Is it to create power over someone else? Is it to create damage? And so that's where our place is. Are we out there to hurt somebody, or are we out to show them that we're right, or show them that we're the right person? That is different. That's narcissism. That's the sense of abusive behavior that's coming out. But being self-centered is so critically important because it is centering yourself. It's your spine is your pole. If you have chakras, and well, we all have chakras, but if you know about them, they build on each other. They build on who each step. And so you have to know that part of your job is to take time to be self-centered and to center yourself, to fulfill yourself, not only in your morning mantras and not only in your morning, but in the day, in the afternoon, in the evening. For me, I write songs. Now everybody thinks that my songs, I show them to everybody, and but I write the songs for me and then I have them produced. So Confidence Karma is a song that I've written that is produced, but trust me, it's for me. I share it with the world, but it's for me. My entree song. But the reason I do it is this ability to show myself self-love and self-kindness in a self-centered, loving way. So I can put my headphones on. You won't know that I'm listening to them. Well, maybe because you'll see me wiggle to it. But in truth, it's because during the day, my job is to ensure that I'm in a space, and I have the words, right? Freedom, choices, bliss, happiness, enlightenment, options, ease, happy, trust, energy, joy, grace, enthusiasm, receiving, contentment, alignment, orgasmic, and grace, manifesting, magnetizing, and attracting all that I want. So that's what I choose to live in. That's who I choose to be. But that doesn't happen. That doesn't just happen. You have to be self-centered to say, I deserve this. I want. So I guess I am kind of, I think about it because trust me, I know what it's like to be really mean and nasty to myself. I choose kindness.
I love the distinction you make with narcissism, and that's not healthy. But I actually think selfishness is a good thing, because if you're not self-centered first, then you become a martyr. That's the word for it. And Glynis, your thoughts? Just before Glynis, you come in, Zofia adds to it: if our experience of life is directly related to our own perceptions, our own lenses, how can we feel responsible for others' interpretations of our actions or intentions? And my quick take is we're not. Yeah, we're not. Zero. That's their problem. Glynis, you weren't once to get in on that conversation.
So the word really resonated with me, and Pegine, I love that message that you listen to yourself, that you've crafted for yourself. That's awesome. And it makes me forget some of the things that I did that were like that were helpful. I coined a new phrase, and it's self-sustaining, because I realize I can't be anything for anyone else unless I'm taking care of me. That old adage of, put the oxygen mask on you before you put it on anybody else. As a parent, that was so counterintuitive to me when I heard it the first time. And then I realized, blue or dead, you can't help a soul. So that's when I realized that self-sustaining is my word. I can't take care of you if I'm not taking care of me. Yeah. If I'm blue or dead, I'm useless to those who I love. I just find it a constant battle, and to our person who typed in, one of the things that derails me from that is how important others and their perception of me is. I think that all of us on the call are very others centered. Yeah. And what they think and the value we give them and all that jazz is important. And as Pegine mentioned, sometimes it's more important than how nice we are to self. And so, Ravi, you asked at the top of the call, what do? Man, I need constant reminders, which is what your and my call was. It was a reminder. Hey, you being nice to you? You being kind to you? So self-sustaining is a word I'm going to now put on the wall. If I had the talent, Pegine, I would turn it into some brilliant song that I would listen to all the time.
Oh, I won't sing it. My friend. I won't sing it. I hire somebody else to sing it. I actually want to be motivated, not blue.
So, Deborah, what about yourself in terms of this thing about the self-kindness, self-centered, and then what others think? Like, you jumped in and said, you are not responsible for what others think. And I totally am on that page.
No. like a lot of mothers, my mother would say, "Oh, what will people think?" And as a small child, I thought that was bizarre. I just thought it was like, oh, I didn't, and she was a wonderful, caring person, but I just didn't believe her. It does. I'm not responsible for your brain. I work with people's brains all the time. It's kind of complex in there, perception, how someone perceives. Someone could perceive me as assertive. Somebody else could perceive me as maybe aggressive. I'm not responsible for that. Oftentimes people project their whatevers onto you. We do the same with others. So yeah, others' perceptions. I mean, some people have in their charts a real anxiety around judgments, and that's a really difficult thing. It takes a while to really work with people that have that. But in terms of, we live in a society where you have to, you're relating to other people, but you can't take on or take ownership of someone else's perception. And to me, it's almost like a little arrogant to think you can. And in terms of self-care, self-sustaining, I quite like, because no, you can't be kind to others if you're not being kind to yourself. And people that are, rude or maybe belligerent, they're not being kind to themselves. It's and we need to, we need to connect with our moon and our Venus, which is nothing to do with our minds. It is everything to do with what do I need in this moment, and checking in emotionally, what feels right in this moment. It can be anything. It differs for everybody, and that's perfectly fine. And for some people, it can be a harder go to really access their, what is kindness for them. It depends on many, many different factors, but it can be a real journey for some people. But I feel, really I think kindness as practice is totally brilliant. And I think it's a real game changer. There's some astrological indicators in terms of how seismic these society changes are going forward. And one is our value system. And I've been yakking about this for ages. And when I'm in a workshop, I can see people, their eyes glaze over and they want me to talk about something sexier. And I'm like, no, this matters a lot. It informs every part of your whole being, So in terms, I've had younger clients that are making, more time for themselves of more value than, say, making a big paycheck. So all those values are shifting for ourselves. And at times, what is kindness to me may shift, right? We can allow for that space to happen as well. That, what is kind for me may change in another few years. It's not a constant. There's additions, there's takeaways as well. So, yeah.
So one thing I should mention too, Patricia came in. She's sort of given up, I think, and she's following us on Facebook. She's an amazing singer. I'm going to play one of her songs at the end. She said she'll sing your songs. So
one of the things I wanted to jump in, because this was popping up for me, is, and since I've had some discussions with individuals coaching clients, is the confusion of being kind and caring and codependency. So the concept of I'm being kind, I'm being caring, but we're doing it over. And all for those of you who don't know, that codependency is a concept that attempts to characterize imbalanced relationship where one person enables another person whose addiction meant poor mental health, immaturity, irresponsibility, or underachievement. That's basically is that you're taking responsibility for their successes, for their challenges in life, and you're out there to save them. And I think that sometimes when we, earlier when Zoe was asking about the other people's interpretations of our actions or intentions, if we're in a dysfunctional experience, one of the things that will come out is, their perceptions will impact who we are rather than our perception of themselves, and that's their stuff, right? Because that's totally their stuff. People, places, things, and situations, how we perceive it, that's our stuff. How they perceive it is their stuff. And somewhere in between, there might be another third person's perception. I mean, look what happens if there's a car accident. You get enough people looking at the accident, they will have all different views, different perspectives about what occurred. And
yes,
we have to take responsibility for ours, but we don't take responsibilities for others. No. We can help them. I just had somebody have an experience whereby, if I can share this, whereby there was a clarity that the other person was layering kind of a plastic visual onto the other person of who they were, what the actions that they were doing, which was really related to their parent, right? The person had nothing to do with it, but the person was only looking at them through, this is what my dad did. This is what my mom did. You are just like them. When it's just like, no, that's your perception. That's not who I am. And so we have to really understand that being kind to ourselves, being gentle to ourselves, really knowing ourselves. Deborah, I love what you were saying, about also understanding from our astrological background, why we do what we do, our psychological background, our spiritual background. There is our history, our experiences. We have to be very much aware when our own perceptions are driving us to be concerned with their perceptions,
Yeah.
right? So that's where kindness comes in. That's where, you know, gentleness in, where seriously, sometimes I've told people, go buy yourself a baby, not a real life baby, a baby doll, and honor yourself. How would you treat that baby? How would you treat her or him, that baby? And how are you treating yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one client who had an incredibly challenging relationship with her mother, just incredibly painful, painful, painful. And there was a workshop, and she was doing something very unkind for herself, to herself. And I said something that, you're treating yourself the way your mother treated you. And she just burst into tears, recognizing that that's what exactly she was doing. It was like mirroring exactly how her mother treated her, which is a little point in terms of your moon. It's the moon is nurturing, and the moon is the keeper of memory. So your moon remembers how it was nurtured, and of course we could repeat that, how we were nurtured. And it's not a perception thing, because perception is mind. Moon is pure emotion, has zero to do with the mind, nothing to do with the mind, everything to do with this. And that's where kindness is from your moon and your Venus, nothing to do with the old noggin or perception for that matter. Perception can play a role, but it's secondary. It's
Yeah.
the moon and Venus.
And that's we repeat what's familiar. So it could be patterns like that from childhood, which
Yeah.
are not healthy, but they're familiar. So we keep, because people go, why would we treat ourselves that way? Well, just because it's what we know.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question here. This is something I've started exploring. Is what would happen if what we do, everything we do in personal development, personal growth, spiritual exploration, how would it shift if we applied the lens of kindness? So,
That's exactly.
give you an
Yeah.
example of this. Like for me, one of the first things that I do in the inner connecting, one of the first ways we beat ourselves up is the self talk. That's one of the most brutal things that are there. So, I show people how to turn that off, like that, right? And to me, that's an act of kindness. And then to access your intuition, to guide yourself, and so is this voice kindness to me? Yes or no? The intuition is, to access that, then to say, what would kindness be in this? If I'm getting up, is it kindness to take a day off, or is it kindness to push hard? Because you were at a time like that, Pegine. So if we were to use that as a lens of what is the kindest option to myself, not to others, to myself, because that will then reflect out to others. So let me ask you, and Glynis, if you want to pop in first, I want to make sure, because we're having some internet challenges for you. What are your thoughts on that? If we used it as a lens for all the rest that we do?
Well, I'll tell you the downside that will bring me to the upside. What happened last week was actually the last 2 weeks. I am in a coaching cohort and we're doing a lot of self examination. And so typically, I will go into something like that and take inventory of all the roles that I'm really strong in. Recently, I had something ding that. One of the roles that I hold nearest and dearest to my heart, which I have invested the most in, also happens to be where my confidence is the highest. I've made a lot of mistakes, and so I like to think that I do it well. I do it with my whole heart. And recently, that got challenged, and as a result, I'm listening to everything Deborah and Pegine said about working with other people and having a really good boundary about not letting other people dictate who I am and what's important to me. And I'm great about that until it's somebody really close. And in this case, it was somebody really close. And it cut me to the core. And as a result, I tended to look with that lens, that other person's lens, at every role, and it sullied them all. Every one of those roles, suddenly my confidence was on the floor. I was horribly unkind to me, and I found that lens tended to all I saw was the bad, and we don't thrive in the bad. And the aha to me, Robbie, was that conversation we had where I sat there thinking, how would I explain that to little Glynis, right? And I don't do a whole lot of inner child work. I think that's maybe something that I need to explore a whole lot more. But at the time, I was in tears because I sat thinking that would break her heart, and it wasn't accurate. I looked at all the things that other person said, and I started saying, is that true? Heck no, it wasn't. It wasn't even not true about that like all the other roles I have, but it wasn't even true for that role. It was
Glynis,
projection. Yeah.
can I ask you, do you think that when this person said that your emotional immune system was running low? That can happen.
Absolutely.
That I can be giving, and something happens, and I recognize, my emotional immune system is kind of in the basement. So I need to kind of shore that up.
Sure, it's one of those
That's
kick
just
me when I'm down, right?
right.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that the more that we are, practicing kindness to ourselves, the stronger our emotional immune system, our heart immune system will be. And people like that can't find a way in because we can't catch their virus. Our emotional immune system is strong, it's sturdy because I'm practicing kindness to myself, and that is shoring up my emotional immune system.
Well, and you bring up a really good point, right? When you say, it keeps that out. In this case, that relationship is not a toxic one. It's well, I guess in the moment, any relationship can be a toxic one if it's not feeding both parties, right? In general, I don't want to just distance myself from that relationship. It's somebody near and dear to my heart who I want to thrive. And the challenge is, to your point, Deborah, because I was emotionally let myself low, I let myself be affected by that. And I was not strong enough to be support for that person who was also emotionally low. Otherwise, that would never have come up at all. So, Robbie, you asked, how do what effect would being kind be? I'd be a whole lot better, helpful, more authentic, more life-giving to those I do care about, who I do want to let close to me, right?
Right.
So I hear you, Glynis, so much and profoundly. And for those people that are listening, I know that when we're emotional, there's four ways, right? And this comes from old time 12-step program. Are you too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? And those four states can make us very vulnerable to those around us, to especially those around us that are intimate, that we love, and that care. I mean, you know, I also, and just like you were saying, Glynis, sometimes being aware of the other person and their own um, practices, their own history. So if it's somebody that goes and gets, from a historical perspective, not meaning to be mean or nasty, mean or nasty, but the way they think self care is maybe going into quietness, going into silence. Now, I can perceive it one way, right? And it's never the positive way. Or I can perceive it as, which thankfully as I've gotten healthier and stronger and more of that is, that's your thing, not mine. And, I can try to help you move through it because I love you and I care for you. But I'm not going to take it personally, although it's a pain in the ass sometimes, right? Because I'm a talker, if you haven't noticed. So if you're not a talker, if your self-healing way is to be in silence, I could be perceived by them as being a pain in the ass. Shut up. Stop asking me. Stop going. I just need quiet. I just need to think through things. And that I think is really, that's also part of that kindness to myself, to understand it's not about me. And when I'm looking at what Sophia wrote, what would you tell people who go through losses and grieving
Yeah.
emotions and claim that others are insensitive to the experience of others' loss? You know what? I have been going through grief for the last year, as Robbie knows. Both my mother died, my favorite brother-in-law died. Um, I, that's their stuff. And my reactions, I could be talking to you and a thought of mom comes through and I just become a freaking backet, in a moment I could be like, and so I know that, those are just real emotions.
Yeah.
But having friends like Robbie around, and I'm so looking forward to continuing my relationship with you, Deborah and Glynis. I'm really looking forward to embrace this because we've been sharing such vulnerabilities and openness and awarenesses that, you go to the people that have less attachment to this situation, more objectivity because they're not part of the story, and who can full-heartedly hug you and embrace you in that way. The other thing that I've learned through this, and we have oh my God, Tricia Jenkins shared a really wonderful experience that I'd like to share with all of you. Is that so? She said, take your hands and you wrap it around. Take one hand and take one hand. You hold yourself really tight like this, right? So go ahead. I'm watching you all. I'm watching you. So you take it and you hold yourself and you give yourself a really deep hug, but what you're saying to the other world, I am hugging you in this way. I'm holding you close. I'm sending you much love. I'm sending you anything. And whatever it is that you need people to do, whether it's like, oh, I need somebody to touch my head or to just, do this, that is an emotion of love that we could share with the world and be kind, but in the process, be really kind to ourselves. Because really, how many times do you hug yourself and care for you and touch your hair and just say, I love you so much. And Glynis, I'm going to add one more thing that you said about the inner child work. I am a master's in social work. My inner child grew up. Let me tell you, that woman has become a freaking power woman. She's in me. She's guiding me. She does not like it when I go down dark paths. She has grown up. She'll be the one that say, girl, I'm not going there with you. No, I am just not going. I have grown up. I have earned this power place in your solar plexus in your soul. We are going to walk this thing. Lift up your head. I am loving you at that. When the mind goes in the place where it is, it's like, I do feel like Deborah. I don't know whether it's a moon or the Venus, but man, this power me inside fills my soul and heart and says, no, we are owning it. We grew up, we experienced everything that we had to experience to be the most magnificent souls on this earth.
Yeah.
Own it. So that's what I would say, Glynis.
So a couple of things, if I can touch on that. I know a friend of ours in CAPS, Patricia Morgan, says to trigger the emotional responses, you do this for 20 seconds or more. or more. The other thing is when that popped to my mind is that when you're saying those things, one of the things about your unconscious mind, which like a 5-year-old kid, it never grows up, right?
Right.
Is that there's no it takes everything personally. So you may say, I'm sending you, I'm sending you. It will hear, I'm sending me, I'm sending me. So when you're doing that, those are things. A couple of things I want to touch on. I'm going to be respective of time. We're coming up on the hour here. When you said about replenishing yourself, and I think that's so important, this whole, I love the question Sophia brought up about self-kindness versus selfishness. I think besides this perception of it's selfish and self-centered, which I think selfishness is an awesome thing, because then you have so much more. Another thing is the not doing that, to me, is the martyr path, and that is made so grand and wonderful to, I'm giving. But when we are under stress, when we're giving, when we're depleted, when you're in those stressful situations, your body pumps out 1,400 chemical toxins, over 30 hormonal changes that age you, that break down your immune system. I believe we get addicted to those. So we do not want to be gentle, because then we lose our hit of those toxic chemicals.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? That in a way we're overcoming an addiction. To be kind to ourselves, we actually have to overcome an addiction to all those chemicals that everyday life is.
Oh, yeah, no question. Yeah, I agree. It's go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, in addition to the toxins, I also think it's the patterns, right? I think that in the same way that we gravitate towards a series of bad relationships, it's often because we have the coping skills to make that happen. I love your crown.
Well, the reason I'm wearing a crown is I'm a recovering drama queen. So I just chose a different kingdom, right? Kingdom. And, I keep these things as a reminder of, do I really want to wear my crown tilted like this is all about me, or do I want to wear it, and so I have these things, and I agree so much with you, that's what you were saying. We get high on the drama. We get high on we can get high. And when we recognize that we can self-love, and there's a whole other piece of generating really good, delicious feelings with ourselves, is by falling in love with yourself. I have every year, I create a book with tabs that I follow every day. And one is, so I have two things in here that are really important, is that I read every day my affirmations. So I have really clear affirmations. Uh, you know, it just keeps me centered. But I also learned through, I love Esther Hicks and I listen to her a lot. So, but I also have timed 17-second affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
They're timed for 17 seconds
Yeah.
so that I can, when I'm heading into that drama place, rather than, I don't drink alcohol, I don't need, you know, but I can say, I'm amazing. Life is good. The universe conspires to bless me abundantly. I rejoice. I love smiling. I love experience, anticipation. I expect good things to flow to me. I love me. I love me. I love David. I adore the kids. I'm excited because I feel great and happy. I am well and I am highly favored. So that's a 17-second break so that I don't get into.
Is there a science behind the 17 seconds?
I don't know. It just freaking works.
It's just a number that I think Esther Hicks has picked out, and basically says if you do 4 of those in a row, you start building up momentum down that way of thinking.
Yeah,
Patricia has.
It's just such a gift, and I hope that people just have it. I want to say that Patricia's saying another beautiful, loving thing to do for ourselves is to take time to look in the mirror and repeat, "I love you," for at least 2 minutes and breathe it in. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Oof, I love you.
I love it. So, folks, I am so grateful to you for joining me. I'm so sorry the technical issues didn't allow us to bring Patricia and Sarah into this conversation. This has been so rich. We could go on and on, I think.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you,
we
Rob.
we are going to be finishing off with something very special from Patricia, but also want to mention here with. Whoops! Just finding the spot here. Pegine, do you want to mention here? You wanted to speak about this?
Yeah, so if you are choose to be a speaker, influencer, or expert, and actually create some really great business, I have something called the 5 stages of a speaker expert. It's dedicated to women who want to be bold, be brave, be seen, be heard, and be paid well. And there are 5 stages, so you could just go to Team Pegine, or you could just email me at Team Pegine, and I'll send you the link for this free report. It's just freaking awesome. And if you are a speaker, expert, or influencer, I have a free women's group called PowerWomenPros.com. It's a Facebook group. You just go, and it's we have almost 1,000 fantastic global influencers. So there we go.
And I'm jealous of that, but we'll let that go. And I forgot to mention too, Deborah is also a recent author. I was just reaching around to grab the book, but it's upstairs. Deborah, would you like to speak about that?
Gabriel's Great Perhaps. It's a spiritual comedy drama, and it follows 7 characters who died somewhat of a quirky deaths, and they end up in a realm that doesn't jive with their afterlife expectations. There's an atheist, there's a Buddhist, there's a Jewish man, Christian, Hindu, I think that's it, and Muslim. And it's a comedy. It is a drama. The title, I'm asked to title things for different people, television shows and movies and books and so forth. And of course, when it came to my own book, it was just like nada. And then I was reading this about this character back in the 14th century. He was a monk, he was an astrologer, he was a philosopher, he was kind of crazy, and he didn't quite believe if there really was an afterlife. And his last words were, "And now I go into the great perhaps." So this is Gabriel's Great Perhaps. And it has all kinds of spiritual messages in it. And I think it's a fun read. I've had a lot of positive.
Oh, it's delightful.
Oh, thank you, Robbie. And I love the whole process of creating it. For me, it was the bravest thing I've ever done. I've done some pretty gutsy things, but this was the bravest thing I've ever done, to kind of show up and wait for the download. Whew. So, yeah. Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you. And Glynis, where's the best place for people to get a hold of you?
GlynisEDevine.com. GLYNIS, letter E, Devine, DEVINE.com. And thank you. Pegine and Deborah, what a thrill to get to spend my afternoon with you. Robbie, I adore you for spearheading this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And just one thing I want to mention, ever since the pandemic, I've made my Mindfulness 101 program free. To anyone who needs it, please feel free to access it, saynotostress.com. Pass it on to anyone you feel needs it. I want to make sure that it's out there, getting to everyone, because it's a huge concern right now.
Oh, yeah.
So now what I would like to do is start to wrap things up with a song by Patricia. Patricia couldn't join us for the live, unfortunately, because of technology issues. But this is, I mean, her singing is amazing, and this is a beautiful song that really captures the energy of what we've been thinking about. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me, and we will be chatting with you all soon. I love you all.
Love you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
of your